If you're not an anti-Semite, give me another reason why the obsession is Israel. What about the Jews? What about the Jews? What is true is Iran is trying to assassinate Donald J. Trump.
And we should attack Iran immediately if that's true.
No.
If they're trying to assassinate our president, why aren't we in a war with them?
Welcome back to Rattlesnake TV, guys. In this video, we are going to be watching an extremely heated debate between Ted Cruz and Tucker Carlson that has just taken place and has been blowing up the internet. The main topic of conversation is the looming war between Israel and obviously as well the United States and Iran. Many controversial points brought up here. So with that, let's get into it.
Our military support for Israel is massively in America's national security interest, and it benefits us enormously.
Well, before we can make independent judgments about whether or not that's true, and I'm certainly open to it, I think we need to know what it costs. So what's the annual cost of defending Israel? Do you know?
$3 billion a year.
No, that's the aid. But I mean, the cost of the weapons, for example, the cost of U.S. personnel there, the cost of moving ships to the region, which we're doing right now, the cost of moving tankers to the region, all of that. Do we know what the cost is?
So look, the last week, I don't know. And there's some lag when the administration, under the Constitution, the commander-in-chief has control of the armed forces. And so President Trump has made some decisions that we'll know the cost over time. But I don't know the last week. I don't have visibility on that. The annual cost is $3 billion. It's a 10-year memorandum of understanding. And that's the principal driver of the cost. But let me make a point. We get massive benefits from Israel. Israel shares the Mossad as one of the best intelligence sources on the planet. The enemies of Israel, the people who hate Israel, they all hate us. It's almost a perfect overlap. And so if we tried to recreate, if we're just trying to defend America, we tried to recreate the national security benefits of our alliance with Israel, it would cost, I don't know, $30 billion, $300 billion.
So can you elaborate? And again, I'm going into this as someone who's always liked Israel, and still does. But I also think at this point, given where we are, it's fair to ask rational questions about what the benefits are.
Good.
So does Mossad share all of its intelligence with us?
Oh, probably not, but they share a lot. Really? We don't share all of our intelligence with them, but we share a lot. It's a close alliance.
Do they spy domestically in the United States?
Oh, they probably do, and we do as well. And friends and allies spy on each other. And I assume all of our allies spy on us.
And that's okay with you?
You know what? One of the things about being a conservative is that you're not naive and utopian. You don't think humans are all... Part of the reason socialism doesn't work is the mantra from each according to his abilities to each according to his needs doesn't work. As a conservative, I assume people act in their rational self-interest.
So it's conservative to pay people to spy on you?
It's conservative to recognize that human beings act in their own self-interest, and every one of our friends spies on us. And I'm not...
Do you like it? That's my question. I'm not asking whether they have motive to do it. Of course they do. I understand that. And by the way, I'm not mad at them. But you're an American lawmaker, so I just want to know, hold on, I want to know your attitude. Yeah. You said that your guiding principle, in fact, the only principle, the only criterion.
I said guiding, the overwhelming. I wouldn't say only.
Is it in America's interest? Is it in America's interest for Israel to spy on us, including on the president?
It is in America's interest to be closely allied with Israel because we get huge benefits for it. And you want to see the clearest.
But I just want to stop on the spying for a second. That it takes place, as you know, and including on the president of the United States and several presidents. And I just want to know if that's okay, and why is it okay? Wouldn't an American lawmaker say to a client state, you're not allowed to spy on us? I'm sorry. I know why you want to. I'm not mad at you, but you're not allowed to.
Sure.
And I don't care for it. I don't want to be spied on by you. It's kind of weird not to say that, but you don't seem able to say that.
Sure, I would say don't spy on us. They're going to anyway. And by the way, the Brits are, the Canadians are, I don't think...
Well, I'm not for that at all. Okay. I think it's disgusting, but we don't actually pay their... we're not their most meaningful sponsor. We're not sort of paying for the operations of the British government.
So I gotta say, and this is, it's weird. We're talking about isolationists, the obsession with Israel. Why is Israel...
Oh, I don't think I'm obsessed with Israel.
Okay, but I think a lot of people are. And the question, Israel spies on us. Well, so does every other country. Why are you mad at Israel?
So maybe not the most popular of opinions in the whole entire world, but I actually do get both of their points here. I mean, Tucker is right. You shouldn't just be flippant about this sort of thing. If you're meant to be this country's greatest ally, and if you're supplying them with so much, their Iron Dome technology, massive amounts of loans that actually get forgiven much of the time, and they're meant to be your best buddy, bud on the world stage, then you should absolutely be concerned with the level to which they are spying on you. And if you get wind of anything extremely untoward happening, such as, I don't know, if they had an island off of the coast of America where very powerful people were going to be blackmailed by that country's intelligence agency or an asset of their intelligence agency, then that should be something that you're very, very concerned about. And you should really do something to try and stamp it out. However, Ted Cruz isn't entirely wrong about his point when he says that being a conservative is understanding the realities of the world and not being naive and not being utopian about that. And there's a great quote by Russell Kirk in the book The Conservative Mind. He says, "Freedom can only be achieved and maintained by sober men who take humanity as it is and not how it should be." That to say, in the context of this conversation, you would be naive to think that all of the different intelligence agencies are not spying on each other. Now let's carry on. Before we get there, guys, I need to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Black Forest Supplements. So check this out. Studies have shown that cocoa flavonols actually stimulate your stem cells to go to work, literally helping repair whatever needs fixing in your body. Heart, liver, skin, they find it and go to work. Pretty wild. But don't take my word for it. Listen to an expert.
So, studies have been done to show that the flavonols in cocoa stimulate stem cells to come out of your bone marrow like bees in a beehive in your bloodstream, and they go out and they find wherever it needs to be repaired. If it's your heart, they'll fix it. If it's in your liver, they'll fix it. If it's your skin, they'll fix it. And so we can eat foods like high flavanol cocoa in order to be able to actually get the stem cells to work a little bit better. Now, how do we know this actually works in people? Well, clinical studies have been done with high flavanol cocoa to show that in like men who are in their 60s with heart disease, they could actually just have 2 cups of dark chocolate hot cocoa a day for a month, and they doubled the amount of stem cells in their bloodstream, and their circulation improved measurably. And then what's even more important and impressive is that there was a study called the Cosmos study that was completed recently that showed that eating high flavanol cocoa decreases the risk of cardiovascular death, right, over a period of time. Like I said, exactly. Except maybe by eating the same thing that you use to make chocolate. So we're not telling people to go out to have chocolate, which is a confection. There's a lot of sugar and all kinds of other stuff in it. But it's the stuff underlying it, the core of it.
Now, here's the deal. You can't just eat chocolate and expect these benefits, unfortunately. Most of the flavonols are stripped out during the chocolate making process. But that's where Black Forest Supplements comes in. They figured out how to extract the good stuff, the flavonols your body needs to trigger stem cell activity. I put this in my coffee in the morning. It tastes amazing, and there's nothing better than something that is both good for you and tastes great. So I asked Black Forest to hook you guys up, and they delivered. 50% off for the next 48 hours. And they usually sell out, so make sure to jump on this while it's still live. All you got to do is hit those links below in the top of the comments and the bio and grab it now. You will not be disappointed. Let's get back to the video.
I guess, I'm hardly the one who's, I've never taken money from the Israel lobby. Have you?
Taken money from the Israel...
From AIPAC.
So AIPAC raises a lot of money for me, but it's actually a misnomer because the people who raise money are individuals. Right. So it's not the PAC itself, but they're individual members who believe in the American-Israeli friendship and relationship. Is AIPAC
a foreign lobby?
No, it's an American lobby. It's the AIPAC stands for the America-Israeli Political Action Committee.
What does it lobby for?
So, to be honest, not a whole lot effectively. Listen, I came into Congress 13 years ago with the stated intention of being the leading defender of Israel in the United States Senate.
Great.
And I've worked every day to do that. AIPAC, a lot of times, AIPAC, I wish were much more effective. Like, there are folks online who are in the fever swamp of terrified of AIPAC, and AIPAC...
I'm not terrified of AIPAC at all. You're the one who seems a little uncomfortable when I'm asking.
No, not uncomfortable at all.
I'm just asking what AIPAC does. My understanding, having known a lot of people who work at AIPAC, is that it lobbies on behalf of the Israeli government.
Wrong.
Oh, okay.
So Tucker Carlson is most definitely not wrong about this. AIPAC stands for American Israel Public Affairs Committee, and they are a lobbying organization that lobby on the behalf of the interests of Israel, and they do that within the United States. And some of the ways in which they do this is that they will try and influence elections, whether that be regional elections or even national elections. AIPAC has many wealthy donors, and it says on their website that AIPAC closely monitors a broad range of issues that affect the US-Israel relationship. Over the past 60 years, AIPAC has built a reputation for providing reliable, credible, and timely research and information for decision makers in Washington and across the country. For a guy like Ted Cruz, AIPAC is his biggest donor, and they will seriously help in his bid to get elected. And if he were to go against them, as Thomas Massie went against them, voted against funding to Israel, then they make a coordinated effort to fund his opponent. They will fund another Republican to try and kick him out of his seat. And the reason why they do this is because they want people within the US Congress who are favorable towards Israel's issues. So if Ted Cruz were being conservative and sober-minded and realistic here, he would just acknowledge this reality. Anyways, let's carry on, guys. Before we get there, don't forget to smash that like button if you're still here and subscribe to the channel.
When was the last time AIPAC took a position that deviated from Prime Minister Netanyahu?
All the time.
Name one.
Okay. let me go back and give a little history. If you want to do a deep dive on AIPAC,
I don't. I want to do a shallow dive that gets...
No, I'm not going to do a simple...
I want to get to the core question. AIPAC is lobbying for a foreign government. And I don't... It's not.
No.
It's lobbying for the United States.
It is lobbying for a strong U.S.-Israeli relationship.
Okay. So it's not, has nothing to do with the foreign government.
It wants America and Israel to be closely allied.
Okay. But it's lobbying on behalf of the interests of another country.
So that's not true at all. And if
it's not true.
No.
How much contact do you think AIPAC leaders have for the government of Israel?
No idea. I imagine some. I think the government of Israel is often frustrated with AIPAC because AIPAC's not nearly strong enough.
Do you think there's any coordination between the government of Israel and AIPAC?
Do they talk? Sure. If you're lobbying for more U.S.-Mexico trade, would you talk to people in the U.S. and Mexico and the government? Sure. Like if...
So I'm not mad about that. There are a million countries that lobby Washington. I like a lot of those countries, including Israel.
But AIPAC are Americans. They're not Israelis.
Hold on. There are tons of Americans who lobby on behalf of foreign governments. I know them. I'm related to some of them. I know how it works. I'm from here. So my question is not, is it outrageous that foreign governments lobby the United States? They all do, okay, including Israel. My only question is, why don't we admit that is what's happening? You're denying it, but it's true.
Yeah,
and
why
aren't they registered as a foreign lobby?
Because they're not.
They're not a foreign lobby.
No, they're not. And this is that there's a fever swamp. Look,
it's not a fever swamp. These are very reasonable questions. And you've accused me of being obsessed with Israel, which I'm not.
I actually haven't. I've said
isolationist. And being feverish
about
it, which I'm not at all. I find it's a very tender spot when you ask it. And I don't know why. So I don't understand why we don't just be honest and say they're lobbying on behalf of a foreign government. They're coordinating with the government. You know that that's true.
That is not only not true, that is false.
They're not coordinating with the Israeli government?
Do you know how AIPAC raises money?
What?
For elected officials, like what they do, like what the actual mechanics is?
I get it. I mean, they go to people who are sympathetic to Israel and raise money and then send it to candidates who agree with them.
So what they'll do is, in my last election, AIPAC endorsed me. And they'll host a fundraiser. And they'll host a fundraiser in Dallas or Houston or Atlanta or New York or LA. And they'll do a fundraiser and they'll get someone who will host it. And it's usually a business owner, lawyer, doctor, someone who hosts it. And you'll get typically at an AIPAC fundraiser, 30, 40, 50, maybe 100 people who live in that city.
Right.
Who care about a strong U.S.-Israel relationship. Yeah. And if they have, 50 people, each of them writes $1,000 check. And you raise $50,000.
Yeah, I've been to an AIPAC fundraiser. Okay. I know what it looks like.
But that is not, and by the way, there's no representative of the Israeli government there. You have, when you're in Dallas, you're meeting with...
This is such a false and silly conversation. I know all this. The question is are AIPAC's goals shaped by the goals of the Israeli government to any extent?
Okay, that's
a really
different
simple
from
question.
Lobbying on behalf of.
It's a simple question. Are AIPAC's goals shaped by the goals of the Israeli government? And I'm just going to ask you that question straightforwardly. And if you say no, I think we both know that's not true.
Okay, are they shaped by?
Are they coordinating with the Israeli government?
Are they talking with them? Yes.
Is Israel
directing them? You want to talk about FARA? The law on lobbying on behalf of someone.
Yeah.
It is, I hire you and you lobby on behalf of me. I direct you. Does Israel direct AIPAC? No, they're not lobbying on behalf of them. Do they care about them? Yes, but...
Or do you think that, it's just interesting because what you're now describing in a very defensive way, I will say, is foreign influence over our politics.
No.
And you began, and it's so transparently obvious to everybody. I don't know why you would be embarrassed of it. You've said that you are sincerely for Israel. I believe you. I don't think you have some weird agenda. You seem to be sincere.
So once again, Tucker Carlson is not lying about this. And it's not like this is something that is overly shadowy. AIPAC are very transparent about what their goals are and what their agenda is. Their agenda is to further the interests of Israel within the United States, and they lobby to do that. This is not a secret. They openly admit this. And within Washington, they know about this as well. I'm sure you guys will remember the clip of Thomas Massie saying that every congressman in Washington has an AIPAC guy. Moreover, Ted Cruz and others, they accuse Tucker of being obsessed with Israel and with the relationship between America and Israel. But right now, it's kind of relevant. The United States funds them. They have a right to ask about where their taxpayer dollars are going, and they have a right to object to it if they want to as well. And also, Ted Cruz has a right to say that he's completely fine with that. But to act like it's some sort of a weird obsession is actually the weird position to take, considering the current geopolitical climate.
By the way, Tucker, it's a very weird thing. the obsession with Israel, when we're talking about foreign countries,
it's hardly an obsession.
You're not talking about Chinese. You're not talking about Japanese. You're not talking about the Brits. You're not talking about the French. The question, what about the Jews? What about the Jews?
Oh, I'm an anti-Semite now. Senator,
you're asking the questions, Tucker. You're asking, why are the Jews controlling our foreign policy?
Senator,
that's what you just asked.
Hardly saying that. And I have
That is exactly what you just said.
Well, actually, I can speak for myself and tell you what I am saying.
Good.
On behalf not simply of myself, but on of my many Jewish friends who would have the same questions, which is to what extent, and it's interesting you're trying to derail my questions by calling me an anti-Semite, which you are.
I did not.
Of course you are. And rather than be honorable enough to say it right to my face, you are in a sleazy feline way implying it or just asking questions about the Jews. I'm not asking questions about the Jews. There's nothing to do with Jews or Judaism. It has to do with the foreign government.
Isn't Israel controlling our foreign policy? That's not about the Jews?
You said, I'm asking you.
And by the way, you're the one that just called me, I think, a sleazy feline. So let's be clear.
It's sleazy to imply that I'm an anti-Semite, which you just did.
No, I just said, why is that the only question you're asking? You answer it. Give me another reason. If you're not an anti-Semite, give me another reason why the obsession is Israel.
I am in no sense obsessed with Israel. We are on the brink of war with Iran. And so these are valid questions.
But you're not asking about Iran or the Ayatollah.
If I can finish, you asked me why I'm obsessed with Israel.
Yep.
3 minutes after telling me that when you first ran for Congress, you elucidated one of your main goals, which is to defend Israel.
Yes.
And I'm the one who's obsessed with Israel. I don't see a lawmaker's job as defending the interests of a foreign government, period. Okay. Any government, including the ones that my ancestors come from. So that's my position. That does not make me an anti-Semite. And shame on you for suggesting otherwise. And I mean that. And that's low, and you know it's low. So why don't you just answer my questions in a straightforward, rational way? You certainly have the IQ to do it.
So shame on you is cute, by the way, Tucker.
It is. It's not cute. I'm offended. I'm obsessed with the Jews. You just told me
you just called me a sleazy feline.
It is sleazy to imply that I'm an anti-Semite for asking questions about how my government is run.
You want to count how many questions you asked about? What about the Jews? What about Israel? What about AIPAC?
I never asked about the Jews. This has nothing to do with the Jews, whatever that means. This has to do with a foreign government. And once again, shame on you for conflating the two. They have nothing to do with each other. I'm talking about the influence of
Israel and Jews have nothing to do with each other?
All Jews, or an attack on all Jews, which I am not, nor would I ever be undertaking now. I'm not attacking anybody.
By the way, that's who Iran wants to kill, is all the Jews and all the Americans.
And I'm totally opposed to that, okay? But now, because
except you don't want to do anything about it,
decisions need to be made.
We can talk about those decisions.
And I plan to.
Good.
But I just want to get a sense of whether you think, having described yourself as an America First person whose only criterion for judgment on foreign policy is America's national interest, to what extent you're influenced by a foreign government, which gives you a lot of money through its lobby, and you're claiming this has nothing to do with the foreign government. They're not coordinating. Yes, they're spying on us, but it doesn't bother you. And I'm sort of wondering, what is this?
So Tucker is absolutely right to give him a blood nose there, because this is the exact same talking point that they always bring up. They say, well, you're going after the Jews. You're anti-Semitic if you don't support the nation state of Israel. And the obvious counter to this is that there are many Jews who also don't support the actions of the government in Israel. I mean, there are many Israelis who don't support the actions of Benjamin Netanyahu. So does that make them anti-Semitic? And also, if you're an American tax-paying citizen and you have objections to where your taxpayer dollars are going and what it's funding, you are completely within your rights to have those objections. Isn't this democracy? Isn't this free speech? Isn't this all of the things that Americans and American politicians, conservative politicians like Ted Cruz, are meant to stand for? Let's carry on.
The Minister of Israel said that Iran tried to assassinate Donald Trump twice.
Yeah, I read your newsletter this morning,
But do you believe that's true?
Again, I think it was sort of a word game. What is true is Iran is trying to assassinate Donald J. Trump, and they have hired hitmen. Now, you pointed out...
No, he said that they have tried twice to kill him, and I don't know that... I don't have any evidence that's true, but I sort of wonder if that is true. Why aren't we at war with them already?
Okay. And I read your newsletter this morning, and I thought it was playing word games to draw a political point.
How's that a word game? It's my president. And
can I tell you?
Yeah, please.
Okay. You rightly pointed out there's no evidence that this clown in Butler, Pennsylvania, who shot the president was working for the Iranians. I don't think he was. There's no evidence of that. Although I would like to know more about who he was and what's going on. But I don't find it plausible that he was working for the Iranians. So, was that caused by the Iranians? No. But what is true, and what your newsletter didn't acknowledge, is it true or false that Iran is currently trying to murder Donald J. Trump and has paid hitmen to do so?
Well, that's the question, and I don't know the Butler, Pennsylvania thing.
Butler, Pennsylvania.
Let's just put that aside. I don't know.
So Netanyahu misspoke when he said those two assassinations were because of Iran. But what he was saying that is right is they're actively trying to murder Donald J. Trump.
Is there? Okay, so you're aware of a plot to kill Trump?
Yes. That Iran is paying for. And by the way,
when?
It has been over the last, I'd say 18 months to 2 years.
In the United States?
In the United States, yes. And let me point out.
Has anyone been arrested?
For the Trump attempted assassination, no. But they are also actively paying Iranian hitmen to murder Mike Pompeo when he was President Trump's first Secretary of State, the first term rather. John Bolton, when John Bolton was National Security Advisor to President Trump. And a guy named Brian Hook, who was Assistant Secretary of State.
Right.
During the Biden administration.
Wait, but hold on. Can we go back to Donald Trump because he's the president? No, it's a big deal. What do you mean? When no one has been arrested for these assassination attempts on Trump.
Yes.
They've hired hitmen. How do we know that?
All right. Let me break it down. People have been arrested. So the reason I brought up Pompeo, Bolton, and Hook, who are under active assassination attempts because of their service in the first Trump administration, under the Biden administration.
Well, they say that. I've never seen any evidence of it.
Can I give you the evidence?
Well, let's just stick with Trump.
No, because these are interrelated. So let me make a bloody point. Under the Biden administration, the State Department was spending $2 million a month providing security for Pompeo, Bolton, and Hook. And they did arrest Iranian hitmen at John Bolton's apartment complex who rented, I think, the apartment next to him and were actively trying to assassinate him. And they went and arrested them. So, yes, they caught Iranian hitmen. Now, it so happens Iran's not very good at it. And so they are actively trying. And in fact,
but what about Trump? He's the president. If there's a plot to kill Trump by the Iranians.
Okay, so you dispute that the Iranians are trying to kill Trump?
Of course. I mean, that's the most important question. The Prime Minister of Israel just said there have been 2 assassination attempts against Donald Trump by the Iranians. And I think it's a very fair question, maybe you disagree, to ask, what are you talking about?
Okay. And I agree with you that he misspoke.
So there weren't those 2 attempts?
There were 2 attempts, but the clown in Butler, Pennsylvania, and the other guy on the golf course were not connected to the Iranians. That's the part that he misspoke. But by the way, when you speak all the time, occasionally, what he said that was accurate is that Iran is actively trying to murder Donald J. Trump and has paid hitmen.
That's fine.
And he was conflating it with the 2 attempts.
I understand. But I just want to pull that thread because it's so important. I voted for Donald Trump. I campaigned for Donald Trump. Yeah. He's our president. And we're on the cusp of a war. So if there's evidence that Iran paid hitmen to kill Donald Trump and is currently doing that, where's that? Like, what are you even talking? I've never heard that before.
Okay.
Where's the evidence? Who are these people? Why haven't they been arrested? Why are we not at war with Iran?
That's a great question to ask.
How do you know that that's true?
We know that it's true because we have been told that by the military and our intelligence community for the last 2 years.
We meaning who?
Congress has and the public. I mean, we had multiple testimonies. I can send you testimony.
Do we know the names of the people or where this happened or what they tried to do to kill Trump?
We have not apprehended an Iranian hitman trying to kill him. We know that Iran is trying to do so.
In the United States?
Yes. And by the way, like Iran...
This just seems like a huge headline and you're acting like everyone knows this. I didn't know that.
Iran put out a whole video about murdering Trump.
Right. But I've never heard evidence that there are hitmen in the United States. I mean, trying to kill Trump right now, we should have a nationwide dragnet on this and we should attack Iran immediately if that's true. Don't you think?
No.
If they're trying to assassinate our president?
They have been for 2 years.
Then why are we at war with them?
We are trying to.
Why don't we just nuke Tehran if they're trying to?
Okay, so obviously it would not surprise me in the slightest if the Ayatollah of Iran wanted Donald Trump dead. If you don't think that that is the case, then I've got a bridge to sell you. They would love to have that. However, there's a difference between what they would like. They would like to see America completely gone, and we know that by their rhetoric. But there's a difference between that and them being caught in creating an actual plan to assassinate the President of the United States. And if there is intelligence about that, then Tucker is right in asking Ted Cruz why they haven't nuked Tehran yet. Because if there's a reason to to go to war with a country, it's not going to be because of semi-reliable and maybe even false intelligence. It's going to be because they're trying to kill your president. But with that said, where is the evidence? What is this intelligence that they have been receiving? And if this is a credible threat, then shouldn't they be more transparent about their intelligence? Who was it exactly that was trying to kill Donald Trump? How were they doing it? We know it wasn't the other guy who was serving over in Ukraine for a little while there. So who was it? What was the plan? And it doesn't appear as though that information is forthcoming. So excuse us for being a little bit dubious when it comes to the trust me bro intelligence that this foreign country over here is trying to do X and Y and it poses an existential threat to us over here. So therefore we have to go and do a regime change. Hasn't worked great in the past.
To try to effectuate
if you
regime
topple,
change.
okay, so you topple the regime and by whatever means, what happens then? How many people live in Iran, by the way?
I don't know the population.
At all?
No, I don't know the population.
You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple?
How many people live in Iran?
92 million.
Okay. Yeah,
How could you not know that?
I don't sit around memorizing population tables.
Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for the overthrow of the government.
Why is it relevant whether it's,
because,
it's 90 million or 80 million or 100 million? Why is that relevant?
Because if you don't know anything about the country...
I didn't say I don't know anything about
Okay, what's the ethnic mix of Iran?
They are Persians and predominantly Shia. Okay,
it's not even... You don't know anything about Iran. So
okay,
I
am not the Tucker Carlson expert on Iran.
You're a senator who's calling for the overthrow of the government. You're the one who don't know anything about the country.
All right. So I know that to a lot of people this looked bad, and this was particularly viral on Twitter, this moment here where Ted Cruz didn't know the population, and I don't really know why this was the moment that got everybody's attention, because this was, in my opinion, from the video we've watched today, was actually Tucker Carlson's weakest moment, because that's just simply a gotcha tactic. It's actually fallacious in a way on Tucker's part, because in order for Ted Cruz to feel the way he does about Iran, he doesn't necessarily need to know the exact population. And he did say that they are Persian Shias, and the majority of Iranians are Persians and Shia Muslims. So he actually got that right. In my opinion, that was not a very strong moment by Tucker.
No, you don't know anything about the country. You're the one who claims they're not trying to murder Donald Trump. You're the one who can't figure out if it was a good idea to kill General Soleimani, and you said it was bad.
You don't believe they're trying to murder Trump.
Yes, I do.
Because you're not calling for military strikes against them in retaliation. And if you really believe that...
We're carrying out military strikes today.
You said Israel was.
Right, with our help. I said we. Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them.
Well, you're breaking news here, because the U.S. government last night denied, the National Security Council spokesman Alex Pfeiffer denied on behalf of Trump that we were acting on Israel's behalf in any offensive capacity.
No, we're not bombing them. Israel's bombing them.
You just said we were.
We are supporting
Israel.
Israel.
High stakes. You're a senator. If you're saying the United States government is at war with Iran right now, people are listening.
Okay, we are not bombing them.
Oh, okay.
Israel is bombing them. And hey, why do you do the snide? Oh, okay.
What do you mean? Because this is super high stakes stuff. This is a huge country that borders a lot of other important countries. A lot of the world's energy comes from there.
So let me ask you,
don't want another disaster. You don't want to be reckless.
The Ayatollah refers to Israel as the little Satan and America as the great Satan. Do you believe him when he says it's the great Satan?
Of course I believe him.
Do you think if the Ayatollah could murder both of us right now that he would? I do. I believe him.
Okay, I assume no good faith on the part of the Ayatollah.
No, not
and
good
if your
faith.
implication is like I'm pro-Ayatollah or something.
No, it's not good faith. It's that
just saying you're a lawmaker. You're a powerful person in Washington. This is the most powerful country in the world. If you're calling for toppling in government, it's incumbent on you to know something about the country and to think through the consequences of that. And you haven't, and you don't. And I'm saying that's reckless.
I haven't thought. Okay, you engage in reckless rhetoric with no facts. And to be clear,
I'm not calling for the overthrow of a government. You
put out a news.
So overall, I think that this was not a very good look for Ted Cruz. I completely disagree with his stance about regime change in Iran. Hasn't worked in the past, won't work in the future. I think we can be pretty sure of that by now. Typically, in the past, when the regimes have changed, such as, ISIS taking over Syria or Afghanistan, things have not gotten much better there. Neither have they gotten much better in Iraq. These things just don't really seem to work. But unfortunately, with these conversations, it's hard to actually get anywhere, because if you make a point that you're an American and you don't want the American taxpayer dollars going to fight another country's war in the Middle East, and you don't think that that's particularly relevant to your life or the things happening on your streets, they call you anti-Semitic, and they try and gaslight you by saying that you're supporting these people who wish death upon America. No, we're pretty aware of what those people over there want. They're pretty explicit about it, but if you wanted to go and regime change or nuke every single country, that doesn't like America, then you'd have a pretty big workload on your hands. But anyways, guys, let me know what you think in the comments. This one is going to divide the comment section, which we absolutely love. Don't forget to like the video, smash that subscribe button, check out Black Forest Supplements. They're doing some great work over there. Those links are down in the bio. And if you'd like to watch another video, right here. Next time, I'm Jake. This is RattlesnakeTV, keeping you armed and dangerous.